Over the last few months, I've been noticing a trend in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community that's been worrying me. The tendency to believe in a conspiracy theory that would bring the end to the Jehovah's Witness religion. Waking up from a cult isn't something that you do overnight. However, cult survivors have the luxury of realizing that everything that they believed in was wrong, rebuild their beliefs with stronger beliefs that aren't held in archaic rules or antiquated forms of thought. But in order to change that antiquated form of thought, you first have to identify it. And that brings us to Armageddon. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that Armageddon is going to come very soon, the apocalyptic solution to every problem in humanity. The narrative is very simple. There's going to be a reckoning soon where us, the good guys, are going to dramatically prevail against the bad guys. And I see this pattern of thought repeat when Jehovah's Witnesses leave their religion. Instead of realizing that the whole apocalyptic solution is silly and unfounded, they just switch the subjects. Now, they believe that they are the good guys and their religion is the bad guys. And they come to believe, with no basis in reality, that it's only a matter of time until there's this dramatic and apocalyptic event that will be the end of the religion, where the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, the good guys, will prevail against Watchtower, the bad guys. And this is an issue because it makes you biased when you're confronted with new information. Before, political tension, war, and even climate change seemed to confirm the fact that Armageddon was going to come very soon. So now, everything that happens against the religion seems to be proof that the end of the religion is also very soon. That's why you see many members of the community say, oh, this will bring the end of Watchtower, or this changes everything for the religion with every development, when in reality, those developments are rarely linked together and they amount to very little. Think about it. It wasn't the end of the religion when, in 2015, Jeffrey Jackson testified in front of the Australian government and said that their organization had an issue with child abuse. There's been dozens of documentaries about the witnesses, and none of them have ever, or likely will ever, change public perception of the witnesses, regardless of how big or well-made they are. But if we believe that the dramatic and apocalyptic event of the religion is coming very soon, we end up interpreting any new developments as signs of the end. And this leads to some report things that are outright wrong, claiming the end of Watchtower is near because they have to pay a lot of money or whatever, and later blaming the report for being incomplete when the report never made any assumptions that the religion was going to pay for anything. The YouTuber did. And this brings us to the latest in this series of conspiracies about the end of the Jehovah's Witness religion. The allegations of Salena Vertolomo in a video that went viral on TikTok just a few days ago.
I'm looking for Anthony Morris.
Who?
Tony Morris III?
Tony Morris?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's not here.
Okay. Can you tell him Salena Vertolomo came to see him?
Salena Vertolomo.
Vertolomo.
Hold on. Do you need to talk to him?
I think he needs to talk to me. He's responsible for the rape, stalking, and torture of myself, my sisters, and my mother. And I came down here to Lumberton, North Carolina to tell him my goddamn self, sir,
That he raped you?
that his ass is grass and I'm the mower. His time has come. He is well acquainted with my father, Tony Vertolomo, who is a child rapist and was running a sex trafficking ring inside of the Jehovah's Witnesses.
What she says is quite the story. She says that Tony Morris is responsible for abusing and torturing her family. She also says that Tony Morris is responsible for running a sex trafficking ring with her father inside of the Jehovah's Witness religion. And she ends up by saying that Tony Morris is the focus of a nationwide investigation in California, Pennsylvania. And some exJW channels just took the story and ran with it.
Thank you, Salena, very much. And thank you for your bravery. Oh my God, you are such a warrior. You know, and I mean that in a good way, because you're wanting to protect the kids.
Selena's video and her comments and what she's experienced, it literally gives us a window, literally a window into the Watchtower's handling of issues just like this.
But is there anything to these allegations? Well, let's do what we did to realize that Armageddon wasn't coming and examine these allegations with critical thought. There was one thing that immediately tipped me off that she was being an unreliable narrator, but we'll put a pin on that and check out her background. Now, obviously, you can't ask an abuse victim to provide proof of their abuse, since that proof is almost impossible to find. Even then, she has provided evidence of her abuse in other videos.
Be advised that Anthony S. Vertolomo, date of birth January 30th, 1955, appeared for psychological evaluation on September 12th, 1996. He went for psychological evaluation. He self-admitted sexual abuse of his daughters beginning at 1.5 years of age and 6 months of age. It was determined that they would work out the problems together with the help of the ministers of their church. Those were the elders of the Jehovah's Witnesses in the Oakley, California, and the Broadsville, Pennsylvania congregations.
I'm not going to fact check her on those court documents because I have no reason to believe that she's lying. After all, this is a horrible thing to lie about. And this story of abuse and subsequent cover-up is all too common in the Jehovah's Witness religion. So we have plenty of external evidence to prove that what she's saying, how Jehovah's Witnesses cover up abuse, is true. She is an abuse victim. However, you can believe someone was a victim of abuse while also asking for proof if they make other claims that they should have evidence to support. You know, like the sex trafficking ring allegations, which are separate from her being abused by her father. Once you start digging into this, you learn that those aren't her only allegations. In this video, she gives more information, like how she was personally invited to join the trafficking ring.
Hey guys, if you're just tuning in, I'm Salena Vertolomo. This is the Indigo Project, and it is a chronicling of what has now become a 2.5-year process in pursuing criminal charges in the state of California against the sex trafficking ring that was run by my father and the Jehovah's Witnesses in Oakley and in Pennsylvania. And in doing that, the cover-up of it, the national cover-up of it, was something I was invited to personally, and
this is a rambling video where she loses her train of thought more than when I'm high.
I lost my complete train of thought again.
And where she says that the sex trafficking ring involved over 80,000 locations.
The truth of it is, the scope of it was so large it was so large, it covered 80,000 locations. So in 80,000 locations, children are knowingly being preyed upon by child predators, and
what she's describing here would have to be a gigantic international trafficking ring, since the Jehovah's Witnesses have less than 120,000 congregations around the world, and usually at least a couple share the same location. So she's arguing that this trafficking ring is as large as the religion itself. She also believes that Toni Morris got her house burned down twice.
I became a doctor after I got away. And then Toni Morris put an order out for my home to burn down. And he did this by lighting a match and inciting very violent cult members to either burn or bury alive anyone speaking out against child sex abuse, anyone who could know anything or expose it. My house burned down, and then I moved out of state. My house burned down again. I wasn't there either time. I was actually out of state the second time. So, you guys missed.
Obviously, these are huge claims that are separate from her abuse and that would require some amount of evidence to be believed. And when she was questioned about that, this was her response.
In reality, though, all the proof is super easy to find. I can post a map, crime map. It has about 75 different major murders that Toni Morris covered up during his position, his reign, the Watchtower Society. But it's also all through history. So, for instance, in North Carolina, a family of 9 was murdered. Their house was burned down within a minute, but they were black, so it probably Didn't matter, did it?
Yeah, let's ignore the fact that she raises yet another accusation of another house being burned down with no evidence to support it, and focus on the one slither of evidence that she did provide, the map. She claims this map shows many locations where Toni Morris covered up a murder of someone. The website in this map appears to be aawa.co, which seems to be a blog from former members of the religion talking about the crimes of Jehovah's Witnesses, and sure enough, there's a map right there. But once I started looking at what they track, I wasn't able to find a single murder there. This map is a map talking about the places where Jehovah's Witnesses have committed crimes. And it's so old, I had a hard time finding a source link that worked, making the map super outdated, unreliable, and completely not what Salena said it was. There is no trace of murder or of Toni Morris in this map, and I have absolutely no idea why she showed it. But those accusations pale in comparison with this TikTok that says that Toni Morris and his criminal ring provided children to Epstein Island.
In one of the most violent cities in the nation. I have processed hundreds, if not thousands.
Yeah, don't pay attention to the other video playing at the same time. It's just the legal definition of slander, and I have also no idea why that's there. And when she was asked to elaborate, this is what she had to say.
A problem like this, you usually want to go to the dealers. And that's what the Jehovah's Witnesses are. They're the dealers. They raise children and they raise adults in a very severe state of trauma. There's incredibly high levels of SA. There's incredibly high levels of violence. And then they take those children who have arrested development, who have all types of emotional issues that prevent them from ever fully maturing, therefore always putting them in a childlike state, particularly in sexual situations. They manufacture perma-children into livestock.
In this video, she shows us proof an article talking about how damaging it can be to grow up in the Jehovah's Witness religion, which doesn't prove any connection to Epstein. And she links to a random 3-year-old YouTube video, which is over an hour long, and made me watch all of it. This video is made by this couple who doesn't talk about the Epstein connection until minute 8, and the only thing they mention is Selena's third place of evidence, which is this. This article talks about Sarah Killen, someone who was involved with Ghislaine Maxwell and is expected to have played an important part in the trafficking kids thing. But further down the article, you can see how Sarah Killen has been disfellowshipped since she escaped the religion when she was 19. And she was in such a vulnerable position that Epstein was able to take advantage of her before he employed her. That's not me talking. That's a parent saying it to the reporter in the article that Salena linked. This proves that Sarah had absolutely no connection with the Jehovah's Witnesses when she was working for Epstein. So Salena hasn't provided any evidence to back up her claims. She has only provided evidence to debunk them. This is what in journalism we call an unreliable narrator. Someone who has outlandish claims but who cannot provide any proof to back them up. The claim of Toni being the leader of a massive pedo ring inside of the organization that is as big as the religion itself is a huge claim and should have equally huge evidence to back it up. And she's not an unreliable narrator just because of her baseless claims. It's also because she seems to be a violent person. In a previous video, she also claims that she may just go back when Toni Morris is around and hit him with a bat until Candy comes out.
We could do it like this, where we have conversations and we talk about it, or we can do it like I told the elders, where the next time I see him, I'll be bringing a metal bat and I'm just gonna swing till Candy comes out. Like, I feel like I deserve that. Treat yourself.
This isn't the first time she threatens Toni Morris with death. Months before any of this happened, she was already making TikToks about it.
So many people have asked me if I'm okay and doing okay, and I really appreciate that. I think somebody should ask Anthony Morris if he's doing okay. In fact, everyone should ask all of them if they're doing okay, because they should be dead by now.
These kinds of claims poison the well and make it so her testimony cannot be used in a court of law because she's already resorting to using violence in response to crimes that she hasn't even proved happened. And that brings me to the very first thing I noticed in the video that made her, in my eyes, an unreliable narrator. From the very beginning, when I watched the first video I showed you and before I watched the rest of them. In her first video, she claims there's an active investigation against Toni Morris.
There is a nationwide investigation going on right now out of California and Pennsylvania. He is at the heart of it. It's taking way too long.
If that were true, and she's a part of it, like she said she was, then she just ruined the entire investigation by going after Toni Morris herself to get a little dunk on him, instead of letting justice play out through the proper channels. This video debunks itself, and you don't even have to go through her cookie channel to realize that she's an unreliable narrator. All you need to do is to examine the original video and really think about it. And yet, this TikTok video has amassed over 2 million views by the time that I'm recording this, and many channels have covered this as if it was reliable information. And this is why I decided to talk about this, because it reminds me to how people assume that Toni Morris is an alcoholic just because Lloyd Evans keeps saying he is. This narrative went unchallenged at the time, and now it's a dogmatic belief held by a large portion of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. When there is no evidence of him being an alcoholic besides that one time where he purchased some bottles and him slurring his speech like every other guy his age. People believe that about Toni too, not because they had any evidence to support their beliefs, but because the claims supported their own biased way of seeing the world. And that's why hoping for a dramatic, apocalyptic end for the religion is damaging, because it can cloud your mind just like indoctrination. And you can see patterns and evidence of the end where there is none, while ignoring the very clear red flags that make something unreliable. The main thing we should learn when we leave dogmatic patterns of thought behind is to question everything, especially when it seems too good or too dramatic to be true. That's why I wanted to make this video. I went back and forth on making this video and how to directly or indirectly talk about this issue. I don't want to create some drama, and I don't want to direct any hate towards anyone. So I really thought of not doing this at all. But at the end of the day, the channels that I'm calling out have way more subscribers and way more viewers than I have. So my reach is already far more limited than their reach. So this video isn't particularly good for my channel, but I couldn't make a video about this issue without being honest and transparent to you. I hate it when people make videos about something and only dance around the subject for fear of being called out themselves, because I want to be called out. If the situation was reversed, I would want people to call me out if I push damaging or unreliable narratives that only hurt the cause. And if I lie you with some clickbait saying that, oh, this is going to change everything, when it's not. Because as I said when I started this video, waking up from a cult is a long process. If you see that I haven't woken up somewhere, you should feel invited to call me out so I can fix that, instead of keeping it to yourself for the sake of keeping the peace inside of the congregation or anything. Anyway, I'm thinking this video may be like my most controversial yet, so please let me know if I've gotten anything wrong. I try to engage with comments as much as possible, especially when they disagree with me, so don't fear getting banned as long as you're not being offensive to others. Please let me know your thoughts, and I don't know, unsubscribe on your way out or something. This is not gonna be a popular video.